Does this map look familiar to you? Typus Orbis Terrarum. This map is featured on the dust jacket cover around volumes of One Piece. It's there, faded in the background, but it's included over and over. The work itself is recognized as one of the first atlases of the modern world. It was put together by Abraham Ortelius in 1570 in Antwerp using prominent maps that existed at the time. In fact, in the bibliography, the names of the creators of the other maps are added, but it lists the names of all the important map makers at the time that Ortelius could think to credit as well. As a work, it represents the culmination of some significant Western understandings about the world itself and man's place within it as well. I find Oda's decision to put it there fascinating, particularly as the map itself features, or the version of the map that Oda included features a number of quotes, in particular one main quote in the middle, but there were 4 medallions surrounding the map in later editions that feature 2 quotes from Cicero and 2 quotes from Seneca the Younger, both Roman intellectuals who had a number of theories around ideas of Stoicism, and which is something I may get back to. Understanding this map, to me, has become incredibly important. Howdy, Boo here. I create chill videos about One Piece. If you're interested in coming along, discussing theories and all sorts of things, hit the subscribe button. Thanks. I'm calling this theory the map piece theory. I think that you can use this map, which Oda has included over and over and over and over and over on the dust jacket of volumes of the manga. I think it's significant because, I can even tell you which version of the map Oda used, or I can tell you which ones he didn't use, because later editions of the map fixed up the shape of South America because it has this big bulge. Look, the map itself is profound. There's a lot of thinking around why it was put together. So Abraham Ortelius has been shown by some scholars to have belonged to a sort of mystic sect, a semi-religious sect called the Familists. In Antwerp in the 1500s, there were a group of people who didn't think that babies should be baptized. They thought that only adults should choose to baptize themselves. They believed in nature above God as part of their beliefs, but they also believed not in the traditional Roman Catholic God, or they believed a connection with God was achieved internally and you didn't need to subscribe to existing ideas of what God was at the time. You could create your own relationship with God, and that every person could create their own relationship with a God, or that was something that should be respected, and a dignity and a virtue that should be maintained. They believed that all human beings naturally sort of seek a brotherhood, and in that they had extraordinary egalitarian ideas. So the reason I bring up this map is, one, there's no world map in One Piece, right? There's no fundamental atlas-style map of the world showing all the geography. That's, as far as I understand it, that's Nami's dream. Nami wants to be the one who charts the full course of the world, who shows that. As far as I can tell, Roger was the only pirate said to have done that, and if the treasure that he found was left by Joy Boy, then one would assume that Joy Boy is the guy who did it before him. The Familists, this group of people believed that man had a sort of dual nature, as both mankind and as almost God, because we have achieved things that had only been seen by the gods before, right? right? Where you have to understand that prior to a world map existing, right, the way that people look at a world doesn't include a vision of that world necessarily that has everybody together. You see depictions of different places, famous landmarks, because no one had been able to put in front of a human being an image that showed them that they were all from one place. You don't see a whole big old disc or sphere or whatever you want to call it, shows that we're all together here. There was this notion that the gods could look down on us, like the gods in Olympus, say, look down over Earth, and they could see the totality of all of Earth and all of its inhabitants. We humankind had reached a point of starting to see the world, like the corners of the map that were mysterious to us, we were starting to fill in on. With the advent of the first of these atlases and these sort of global maps, right, you have that feeling that accompanies an astronaut in space, whether he's on the moon or just floating around out there. When he gets out into the orbit, or she or whoever they gets out into the orbit, and they go and they look back at the planet and they see that big blue, pale blue dot. See all of our wars, all of our conflict, all of that history, all of those things struggling together, but it's all there on one rock, and it is one thing, it is one piece. Now, long has existed in the sort of world of One Piece theories and notions of Pangea. The islands that exist in the Grand Line, the islands that exist all over the world of One Piece, were one piece. They were one continent, one supercontinent, Pangea, Gondwana land, whatever you want to call it, right? Hence, we have Pangea Castle and the Red Line, sort of denoting the center of the world of One Piece, as it were, right? This also recalls things like the Tower of Babel in the Bible. Humanity, we were all able to speak the same language religiously, right, in this story. And God made it so due to various mistakes that we'd made or ways that we'd slighted him. God made it so that we couldn't all understand each other and see eye to eye. And we have in One Piece different islands, different weather, different cultures. The people that Chopper study with on the island that he's on is tribal, but they're extremely advanced in terms of history and society. But Oda's playing with the notions of how from island to island, you know, time and place and culture, they have connotations. People who live on an island and research like Egghead as they do to an island like Wano. They're in different times. Their cultures are in different places. And what comes with that is all sorts of dogma, all sorts of ideas about how race works, ideas about how slavery is, what is and isn't acceptable treatment of women, treatment of fishmen, you know, discrimination and how all that stuff works. It's all seen within a context, right? But if they all used to belong to one whole, the implication is that they were broken up either naturally or intentionally. Now, to get back to our world map from our man Ortelius here, Abraham Ortelius, the religious traditions at the time. So there are 4 medallions on the Typus Orbis Terrarum, right? These different quotes. Homines hac leg... I'm not even going to say it. So, Cicero. Central in this map is a profound quote. The thing I really find interesting about Oda and his decision to put this map on the front cover from the dust jackets of these One Piece volumes is that in doing this, he cropped out the title of the map and these 4 medallions. And I can tell you he cropped out these 4 medallions because in later editions of the map, South America had been fixed up, which tells me they used to be printed on plates, right? And the way that these plates work is that you had various states of them. So that would be every time that someone would make an adjustment, etch in new things to these metal plates that they would print the maps off of. Every time someone would make an adjustment, they'd say there was a new state. There's various versions of the plate. and for every version of the plate, there's various states. When they got to the third sort of version, they were fixing up various mistakes. And this guy, Abraham Ortelius, is credited as one of the earliest proponents of a sort of continental drift theory. He noticed the side of Africa and I think South America fit together like puzzle pieces because he was drawing a map and he was looking at the world in a way that it hadn't been looked at. And he noticed they tessellated, that these objects fit together. He comes to realize that Pangea is potentially possible. You fit two things together, you start to see how many of the other things can fit together, and oh my god, was this all one piece before? I'm not sure how that idea would have occurred to people prior to the advent of a world map where they could see from a bird's eye view that shapeliness, the geometric potential of it all. I love looking at how people saw the world. And this is the thing about One Piece. Outside of Vegapunk, there probably aren't that many cultures that understand the potentiality of this, that the red line could be dividing it, that the Grand Line could be dividing the seas. Yes, they know there are 4 seas, but do they know that it is even possible for there to have been one? Anyway, when we interrogate the Tibus Orbis Terrarum, quotes from Cicero and Seneca the Younger, we get some really interesting stuff. I've been over and over and over and over and over this stuff. But the main quote in the middle, quid e potest videre magnum e in rebus humanus qui aeternatus omnis totuicisc mundi notasit magnitudo. I've absolutely butchered that, but I've seen it translated as, or what human affairs can seem import to a man who keeps all eternity before his eyes and knows the vastness of the universe. So basically I've seen this also as concerning an omniscient or all-knowing, undying existence, sort of, and how it would comprehend human beings and the trifling sort of things that affect us, the human plight, if you will, like our experience, and how innately, if you understood the totality of the planets and Earth and the universe, millennia of existences and everything, how trivial human lives and human qualms and human arguments and human wills and desires might seem. Scholars have noted Ortelius's decision to include the map with this sort of framing, banners and medallions with quotes. It gives you that feeling that you get in an art gallery when you're unpacking something like this, when you can observe it like this, and all the lines are drawn up arbitrarily on this one big thing that we were all put here to protect and understand and exist in accordance with. It's big thinking stuff, right? But I think the map piece is real, right? Explain to me why Oda is included, since Romance Dawn, in the background of these dust jackets, this map of the world in his story, which does not include inherently a map of the world. You know, some people think a map of the world is the One Piece. Storing the world to Pangea is the One Piece. Some people think destroying the Red Line and bringing all the seas together is the One Piece. All of these things involve looking at the world and looking at humanity on the world as one thing. Not looking at humanity as a group of uninvolved, disconnected, different people from different cultures. No, considering humanity as one in the vastness of the thing that is the world. Whether or not all of our different islands are all one island, or whether or not all of our different islands are separated, our responsibility as people that can consider the totality of this. Cicero, one of his quotes here says, "For men are created under the law which obliges them to take care of that globe, which you see in the middle of this universal temple, and which is called the earth. And to them a mind is given from those eternal fires which you call the stars, which, being spherical and animated with divine intelligence, perform their revolutions in the orbits which they move with astonishing rapidity." Eternal fires. Man, a mind is given from eternal fires. Just think about the first world in the Harley text there for me. You tell me the Mother Flame doesn't have in the pursuit of Will and Haki in the One Piece world, that those things aren't connected. The Familists, because understanding this mystical sect that existed, but they would appear as if Christians or Catholics or whatever outwardly, and they wouldn't scrutinize these religions publicly. They would only do it to each other, and they would do it privately. They would keep this shit to themselves, and they did so as part of a family of love. I think there is, if you want to get headcanon about it, there's certainly parallels with the inherited will of the D clan, quietly passing down certain values, certain ways of seeing and believing. And I think the will of D is going to belong to a group of people who are not blood relatives. It's an adherence to an idea, right? The will of D is keeping a certain flame alive, or a series of sets of ideas alive. Then you've got another quote from Cicero. It's from something called On the Nature of Gods, De Natura Deorum. The horse is for riding, the ox for ploughing, the dog for hunting and guarding, but man was born to contemplate the world. I believe this is a reference to one of Aesop's fables, which is also called like the horse, the man, the ox, the dog. And in that story, a man gives shelter to some animals during a storm, an ox, a horse, a dog, and to thank him, they give parts of their lives to the man to represent parts of his. The horse works really hard when he's younger, just like a younger person does, and the ox is really strong and reliable and stable, supposed to represent the middle man. And then later on, the dog is old and barks at people and doesn't want to leave his home, and that's supposed to be the old man. This is part of a wider symbolism about man's ability to utilize nature and to see other animals and his role within the animal kingdom as above the animals but beneath the gods, and able to consider all these things and having to have the responsibility and power that comes with that. So yeah, the quote suggests like a hierarchical or like functional perspective of like the roles of different things in the natural order. The horse, the ox, and the dog each have their own like defined purpose. They serve humanity's needs in specific ways. But man is described as something different, born to like contemplate the world. Seneca quotes, I think, are also really interesting, right? Okay. Translation is, this is that pinprick which is carved up among so many nations by sword and fire. Or, this is the time when the world is divided by the fire and sword of many nations. How ridiculous are the goals of mortal beings. Again, Seneca's being like, yo, human beings, we're fighting over this one earth that we live on. How ridiculous our ideals would seem to be to the gods. Our lust for power, our gluttony and sex and war and all of the good stuff, you know what I mean? He bemoans the fact that mankind can't look at philosophy like the gods see the universe, basically. We wish, just like the universe and the face of the world comes into view, that it could similarly happen that philosophy could be made visible to us.
Imagine being able to consider all the thoughts and ideas that people have thought. What could it look like? It might burn like worlds and stars, grow like many blades of grass do on a hill. I mean, remember, Ortelius chose these quotes, so it follows that he's self-referentially promoting the sublime and vast qualities of the universe through his fancy world map. Makes me think of devil fruits and how, according to Vegapunk's theory, they stem from ideas, desires, and the like. This is key to understanding how they developed in the world. So, in the fruit, an object of nature presents a vessel for human will and dreams, just as humans themselves are a vessel for these things. Thinking given to form, because the universe allows for it, but the life force that is Earth is at odds with this chaos.
And if the the world is living,
We are presented with the possibility that
human beings represent the potential to be harmonious, but very much so the potential to be those that completely imbalance nature. I don't know whether or not the world wants the red line where the red line is. All those seas may or may not have been separated, but they are separated now. Oda included the map, he included the globe. Maybe he just did it because he likes maps. Maybe he just did it because a map of the world inspires adventure. Maybe he did it just because it makes you feel like you're exploring, right? But he chose a very, very famous map of the world, right? A map that is known as being the first atlas, and a map that is known for being a representation of this worldview where you need to see that we all belong to one thing. Profound. But he included it. That map is there. What's not included? The quotes that are around it. And not because of copyright, right? Abraham Ortelius's map is on the front cover of One Piece. And I know Oda put it there. And I don't know why. And I find it incredibly compelling. That's that.